Kroszner is a former Federal Reserve governor and an economics professor at the University of Chicago. Randy, it's good to see you again. Did you work with Warsh when he was on the Fed?
I did. We went through our confirmation hearing together.
Wow. OK, so you have worked with him through the confirmation hearing. So that was through the 2008 period then. And maybe you can speak to, I've heard a lot of different takes on what he wanted to do during that time. Critics say he would have hiked or not eased as much and caused a bigger economic problem. Proponents say that he acted kind of admirably to keep the financial system going because he understood, the challenges that we were looking into at that moment. Can you unpack that for us?
So think back to before the crisis happened. Oil prices were skyrocketing. They were $150 a barrel. So, higher nominal levels than they even are now or in the recent shocks. So there was a lot of apparent inflation pressure, but we were also very concerned about what might happen to the financial system. We realized how fragile it was. So it was one of these challenges where you have data that say that inflation is high, but you're worried about what's coming next. And so I think both of us were concerned about the inflation part, but certainly once we saw the extent of the crisis, we both worked very hard to make sure that we just had a great recession rather than a great depression. What
do you think he thinks about the inflation situation now?
Well, obviously, he would prefer to have a much lower inflation situation coming into this. It's a little bit like what I was just talking about, because he's got a challenge that inflation is higher than anyone would like. Now, the difference is that rather than seeing a crisis coming, he sees a boom with tech, particularly with AI, that he feels gives a little bit more room to run for the Fed to either pause or actually reduce rates in the current environment. I think he'll be gentle in doing that. One, because he won't have the votes around the table, and Kevin is very much someone who will sort of drive a consensus rather than be the outlier. He'll really try to convince his colleagues. Second, he's a long-run strategic thinker. He thinks very much about the long-run strategy for the Fed. He thinks about his legacy, and so certainly he is not going to be someone who is going to say, "Oh well, this is just a one-off. We can cut interest rates down to 1% and not worry." Mm-hmm. That's not how he's going to approach things. He's going to worry about inflation expectations. He's going to worry about the impact on the economy. And then I think he's going to try to provide the foundation for potentially moving rates down, that this is more of a one-off rather than something extended. But I don't think he's going to do that at the first meeting.
We spoke with Larry Lindsay last hour, who said he thinks this is the first time since Eccles that a sitting chair would then join the following chair on the board. In other words, Powell will still be there on the board or at the Fed. Does that make the situation complicated or awkward? Because Larry suggested they might actually end up as allies on a number of issues.
I think Larry's right on this. So both of them care deeply about the institution. And that's something that is, I think, kind of part of the Fed brethren, that we love the institution. We think it's incredibly important and want to make sure it executes on its mission as well as possible. And so, even though you might think, well, gee, Kevin has said some very tough things about Jay. Kevin is going to be very charming. He's going to sit down with Jay and treat him like, his closest buddy. And I think they do agree on a number of things. Now, you can always have some differences in nuance. You can always have some differences in approach. But Kevin knows that to make a convincing argument, it has to be based on some sort of analytic foundation. And Jay certainly has been a great promoter of that approach to things. And I think they'll be able to work together quite easily. Also, Jay has said very explicitly he's going to keep a low profile. He's not going to be going around saying, well, I was the former chair and I don't agree what this guy is doing. It's a shame that we have someone here like this. Not at all. Completely opposite of that.
Right. It might be more entertaining, frankly, for us to watch. But I think I agree with you. It seems a little unlikely. Randy, thanks for making the time. Appreciate it today.